exactly why they tell people not to.
This one's coming straight toward us.
That's you! Okay, this looks risky. Oh my god!
Easy, girl.
Yep, that's it.
You're all right.
Whenever you're ready. Oh my god, it just fell! They're all coming. Oh my god, it fell.
Whoa!
Oh my god! It slipped.
Wake Up America, Rise in Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. We're glad and thankful to have you here. Los Angeles is voting this morning, and people in the second largest city in America are walking into polling places to decide whether Karen Bass gets 4 more years to finish burning the city to the ground, or whether Spencer Pratt gets to try something a little different. Now, Pratt lost his house in the famous Palisades fire while Bass was in Ghana. The latest polling has the 3 candidates within the margin of error. The prediction markets have Pratt at 79% odds to make the November runoff. 5 months ago, the political establishment in the city was laughing at him. Nobody thought that he had a chance at all. But they're not laughing today. We're going to cover all that this morning. The campaign, the crime wave of Los Angeles, the billions in homeless money that the LA Housing Authority cannot account for. The creator of Entourage, the television show, who got robbed in his own home and endorsed Pratt the day before the primary. So we're going to tell you the honest truth about what Pratt is actually up against, though, in November, because I respect you enough not to sell you fairy tales, okay? Democrats outnumber Republicans 4-1 in that city, so the math is very hard. But the anger might be harder. Also, today is June the 2nd. Pride Month is here, and something is different this year. The corporate sponsors, many of them are gone. The parade organizers are scrambling for money this year. The Pentagon stood down its Pride observances in January, and nobody in the building seems to have lost sleep over it. The left wants you to believe that all of this rollback that's going on, it's just cosmetic. The companies are just getting smarter about their marketing, and we're going to test that claim. And we'll ask out loud, what does this country owe to the people who bled for it? Because veterans have a month on paper, but they have no corporate infrastructure behind it. And June has the infrastructure, but none of the sacrifice. Camellia Peterson is here for that conversation, and it's going to be a good one. So if you want to hear from Camellia, she'll be here at 8 a.m. Central Time. Also, this morning, we're going to start the show today with a story about a woman who face planted while running away from a bison at Yellowstone Park this week. Now, the bison didn't chase her. The bison barely looked up. She panicked. Her legs failed her at the moment when they were most needed, and she went face first in the concrete while the 2,000-pound animal watched. The internet said she had the survival skills of a French fry, which, if anybody knows French fries in my house, they don't last very long. And Fox News also ran a segment on a tourist who took a selfie with a deer and then left with broken ribs. This is happening constantly. And I want to make a modest proposal this morning. We should take the warning signs down. The ones that exist because, Park Service is afraid of getting sued by the family of somebody who walked up to a bison. So I think we should replace the do not approach wildlife sign with pet the buffalo signs. Now, Darwin identified the mechanism all the way back in 1859. The signs have had 150 years to work. They have not worked. Maybe it is time to let the bison handle it. What do you say, guys? So in addition to Camellia Peterson on the show this morning, we have also got author Devon Eriksen, who's going to join us on the show today. He wrote the science fiction novel Theft of Fire, and the most common comparison that readers make to him is Robert Heinlein, which obviously I'm a huge fan of, which means, of course, we're going to talk about Starship Troopers, but specifically about the fact that Paul Verhoeven, who was the director of the movie, made a movie out of that book without finishing that book, and he turned it into a fascist satire. And most people alive today think that Heinlein was a Nazi because of a film that its own director didn't bother to research. So that's the media literacy problem that we have in this country. It's the same one that gives you readers who accuse Eriksen of being a socialist based on the characters in his play. So it's a good conversation, and it's going to happen today at 8:30 a.m. Central. You guys, let's get into it.
Oh, she fell to the ground. Do you record it?
Watch it again, guys. Watch it again.
Shit. Oh, she fell to the ground.
What's funny is that, like, the bison isn't even chasing her in this, and you see it's just looking at her, but like she's running away. Watch this. Oh, she's funny. She looks like a ghost. I don't know what she's wearing there, but it looks like some kind of like all white getup, like she's from the 1800s or something like that. Oh, bam, face planted right there. Yeah. So that's a woman who walked up to a bison at Yellowstone National Park this week. She face planted while running away from the bison. The bison didn't chase her. It just barely moved. She panicked, and her legs failed her at exactly the moment when legs were first needed. She goes face first into the concrete while the animal watched from the distance. And the internet was having a blast with this one, so I thought, hey, let's share with you guys some of the best. One commenter said she had the survival skills of a French fry. Another noted that, quote, even the buffalo is confused. And Fox News also ran a segment this week with a tourist who took a selfie with a deer and came away with broken ribs. Yeah, a deer. So the animal that runs from everything. So the guy found the deer with the with the one deer with enough self-respect to fight back. Congratulations. So yeah, this guy got himself gored by a deer. The guy got into the deer's face with a camera, and he learned something very important about personal space, the hard way. So bison are deceptively fast. Most people don't know that when you see a bison, you think, oh, it's really small. But them things are pretty damn fast. Bison can run 35 miles an hour. They're more than 2,000 pounds, and they operate on instinct alone.
Keep going. Hey!
So they're not a petting zoo exhibit, right? Yellowstone is not a petting zoo. All right, you do not want to tangle with a deer, says Camellia. Are you speaking from experience, CJ? So these animals are not photo props, right? They don't care about your vacation itinerary. Yellowstone frequently posts signs around that says, don't pet the buffalo. Rangers are all over the place walking the perimeter specifically to try and stop people from doing this. Last fall, an entire crowd of bystanders physically warned two tourists to back away from a charging bison, and the tourists stood there anyway, right up until it ran at them.
Run.
I love how, like, they didn't even try and save their kids. Poor kid. They didn't even try. Yeah. So that video got watched 8 million times, right? And the tourists were fine. Nobody died. But nothing was learned. 150 years of posted warnings about the buffalo haven't fixed this problem. The rangers that we pay for, they haven't fixed this. Common sense hasn't fixed this. And, so here's a different approach that I would like to suggest, maybe a slightly controversial approach on this show, but take the signs down. Not the informational signs, the warning signs. Pull the signs. Pull the do not approach wildlife signs, okay? It's time, pull those signs and replace it with pet the buffalo signs. What do you guys say? When you see something like
Incredibly dangerous stunt in Wyoming, a woman taking a selfie standing right next to a bison in Yellowstone National Park a couple of weeks ago. The person who took the video says they were in disbelief. They say the woman could have been gored. The animal likely would have had to be euthanized through no fault of its own. The National Park Service advises people to stay at least 25 yards away from bison, warning they are unpredictable and injured people in the park more than any other animal.
Yeah, no, yes, the buffalo are the most dangerous animal in the entire park. All the animals that they have there, snakes, cougars, the buffalo are the ones that cause the most injuries. So it's time for us to replace the warning signs and put in the pet the buffalo signs. The only thing that's ever going to teach these people anything is the buffalo itself, okay? Charles Darwin identified this mechanism back in 1859, and he wasn't being cruel. He was just describing how a species stays functional. All right, and right now, the species is face planting in the dirt at Yellowstone. We're not staying functional. Now, every absurd warning label on every product that you've ever owned is the result of some idiot and a lawsuit. All right, that is the full explanation. Somewhere, at some point, a person did the thing that the label now prohibits. They retained an attorney and collected a check. The label that you see, the warning label, that's the paper trail from the lawsuit. A Husqvarna chainsaw manual contains the instruction, do not hold the wrong end of the chainsaw. Now, that line is in there because someone held the wrong end. Not theoretically. That happened. They required medical attention, and they generated enough liability that a Swedish engineering company felt it necessary to address in print not to hold the wrong end of the chainsaw. A stroller in the market right now carries the warning, remove child before folding. That means that someone folded the stroller with the child still in it. Now, that child is probably in college right now, and the stroller still has the label. If you've ever bought one of those Duraflame logs at the grocery store or whatever, this is a product whose only reason to exist is to make fire, is labeled caution, risk of fire. A household iron, you could go check this, says, do not iron clothes while wearing them. Consumer safety groups have confirmed that that label is in there because a significant minority of adults might attempt it, particularly when in a hurry. A significant minority of adults ironing a shirt while wearing it. Bags of rat poison read, warning, may be harmful if eaten. The rat poison may be harmful if eaten. The whole industry traces back to one moment in 1994. A woman spilled hot coffee on herself at McDonald's, sued. She won $2.7 million at trial. Every caution contents may be hot sticker on every coffee cup at every drive-thru in America. Since then, that's her lawsuit. That's the moment that the country decided that ordering a hot beverage and getting burned by it was an actionable harm rather than just a bad morning. The entire warning label apparatus is downstream of that ruling. It costs manufacturers millions of dollars every year to print instructions to grown adults, explain to them how to be grown adults. And guess what? You pay for that. Those costs come back to you. Every product that you buy carries a small stupidity tax, a built-in fee to cover the legal exposure created by people who cannot work on their own, that fire burns, that chainsaws cut, and that rat poison is bad for things that aren't rats. Now, the libertarian case is not that stupid people deserve to suffer. That might be, you can individually hold that opinion, but the case is simpler than this. When you remove a consequence from a bad decision, you don't prevent the decision, you're just making it someone else's problem. The woman who ironed her shirt while wearing it should have come away from that with new information. Instead, she got a lot of money. She got a settlement. The iron all got a label, and the person who buys that iron going forward pays for her decision because the stupidity didn't go away. It just all got distributed amongst the rest of us.
Jesus Christ, Richard!
I have a feeling that pit bull's name is not Richard. I love how the wife immediately gets mad at the husband. But it is a pit bull. So I have to say, points for the buffalo there on that one. We need another sign that says, pet the buffalo and bring your pit bulls and feed them to the buffalo. Oh, shiny, happy people holding shiny, happy people. All right, so Yellowstone has been running this experiment for 150 years, and the results of this experiment are in. The signs don't work. June 10th of last year, a man in the Upper Geyser Basin got gored by a bison after approaching it. He got minor injuries. Park officials had to issue another reminder about maintaining safe distances. In 2025, a 17-year-old stepped through the thermal crust near Lone Star Geyser and suffered significant burns. People have been killed because they wander out into the scalding hot pools. In this incident, the 17-year-old not only gave birth, the crust gave way because that's what thin mineral crust does when you put weight on it. Yellowstone has signs everywhere explaining this for decades. 23 people have died from burns in the park's thermal areas since it opened in 1872. The signs predate everyone alive, and they have not solved the problem, and they will not solve the problem. A Seattle tourist named Angela Flaherty walked 10 feet onto the cone of Old Faithful, off the boardwalk, through the closure, past the posted signs, and she got 7 days in jail and paid $40 in court costs. And she now has a federal record. The person who videotaped her doing it was standing on the boardwalk that she just left. In Hawaii, a 33-year-old man walked into a closed section of the Kilauea caldera. Rescue crews searched for the night. They found him the next day. He was pronounced dead at the hospital. And it was closed off. Posted signs. Went in anyway. And nobody's going to say this out loud. The tourists aren't the only ones paying. When a visitor approaches a bison and the bison defends itself, they kill that animal. They do. They euthanize it because it's classified as a continued threat if it's hurt a human. They put it down for reacting to a provocation that it didn't even start. And that is the real tragedy here, because the bison did absolutely nothing wrong. It didn't deserve this. The deer that broke the selfie guy's ribs did nothing wrong. An animal that has lived in that ecosystem its entire life, behaving exactly as its nature requires, gets killed because a tourist decided that the posted distance that they were told was optional. Right? The warning signs don't protect the tourists. The tourists keep demonstrating that. What the signs protect is just the park's liability. And then when they fail, the animal pays that price. Right? I say pull them, pet the buffalo signs. Geyser, yes, it burns. Thermal crust, not as thick as your skull. Looky here. Right there. That's your warning sign, bud. That was your one warning sign. Boom. Yeah, right there, guys. It's the people who would have read the real signs will read the new ones and get the joke. The people who wouldn't have read them will pet the buffalo anyway, and the buffalo will teach the lesson that couldn't have been learned from a sign. This isn't cruelty, guys, because the cruelty is killing the animal because of the stupid tourist. This is just, I say, the National Park Service finally being straight about what the signs were always up against. So here's the philosophical closer for you on this one, because every story we do on this show has a point. Harambe died for this. He is weeping in heaven. Yeah, exactly. So the phrase nanny state came out of British conservatism. Margaret Thatcher's crowd used it to describe a government that was so overprotective that it had started treating its citizens like children who couldn't be trusted with their own choices. And the term stuck because it described what kept getting more true in Western civilization. Now, America, we got there through a different door. Instead of a government nanny, we've built 50 nannies, 50 states nannies, and the federal government nannying us. It's all the same philosophy, though. The government mandates the label, the company prints the label, the lawyer files a suit if they don't print the label. The only person who doesn't benefit from any of this arrangement is the person who was supposed to learn something from the consequence that they were insulated from. Right? Darwin's actual point is that a species without consequences stops adapting. The consequence is information. The bison goring you is information. The thermal burn that you get from walking out over the geyser is information. The deer and the broken ribs is information, and it's delivered very efficiently and at close range. Every warning label and every ranger intervention, every liability disclaimer is just a small interception of that information before it reaches the person who needs that information the most. Right? We've had 50 years of interceptions. We've had it systematized across every product category and every national park and every fast food cup. And what do we get for it? We end up with a population that needs a stroller manufacturer to explain that babies should be removed before the stroller is folded. Okay, this is the predictable output of a system that decided that consequences of your decisions were too harsh, so they redistributed them to the lawyers and the insurance companies, and then those corporations then redistributed those costs to the rest of us. Roads need guardrails, power tools need blade guards. That's engineering, that's different. Those failures are mechanical and random. Those are not the result of somebody voluntarily doing something that any adult should know not to do. So the category that's worth challenging in all of this is a lot narrower. The warning that exists exclusively because someone was voluntarily and preventably aggressively stupid, and instead of that stupidity generating the lesson that it was supposed to, it generated a label and higher costs for the rest of us. The plastic bag, that they say don't place over your head, the coffee cup that says the coffee is hot, or the rat poison that says being eaten is not good for you, right? Not one of those labels prevented the incident that created it. They just moved the legal exposure and the cost to the rest of us. So I say, take them off, right? Let the bison educate. Let the geyser be its own curriculum. I say it's time to let him crash. Or if you have to have a warning sign, I say just one warning sign is all we need. And you put it at the entrance of Yellowstone. It says that the animals are wild. The ground can kill you. Act accordingly. Then step back. The people who would have respected the original signs will respect that one. The ones who were going to pet the buffalo, like this bitch, they were going to pet the buffalo regardless of what the sign says. See, Darwin's been waiting on these guys for a while. He's a very patient man, and his track record is better than National Park Service's. So. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. We're glad and thankful to have you here, guys. How are you feeling today? Get a kick out of that one? Darwin Awards. If today's the first time you've ever watched the Wake Up America show, we'd love to have you be a regular guest. Click the like button, and while you're there, click the follow button as well. You'll get notifications whenever we go live, which is 5 days a week, Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. The Wake Up America show is part of the For Liberty Network. There are 5 live shows on the Wake Up America shows network, and we're always looking to add more. If you are a big fan of the United States of America and our 250th anniversary, then you need to check out the For Liberty shop. During the Wake Up America show, we like to offer you bonus content and prizes available to you that you can unlock. It's kind of a fun little game that we play with our audience. You get a little something, we get a little something, you get a little something back, and we get a little something too. So head on over to forlibertyshop.com. If you've never been to the Grift Shop, you need to check it out. Yes, we call it the Grift Shop. We do a little grifting. Look at all the amazing stuff we have in our 250th anniversary collection. If you make a purchase during the live show, then you will help to unlock the bonus content, which is during the live show. If we raise $100, either in purchases made during the show or in donations that are made through Rumble Rants, then we add it all up. And if we hit $100 raised, then you get to watch our little mini documentary instead of commercials when we go to our commercial breaks, which we usually take maybe 2, sometimes 3 commercial breaks a show. And it makes it just a little more fun for you guys. So if you want to check out our 250th anniversary collection, highly recommend that you visit forlibertyshop.com. We've got Founding Fathers tees, 1776 truckers hats, the Boston Tea Party mug, Betsy Ross flip-flops. The 250th anniversary embroidered American flag polo shirt has been a sleeper hit for us. People who have no idea who we are have been buying the heck out of this one just because it's really high quality. It's embroidered. It's got a beautiful, big, giant American flag on there. I think somebody was like criticizing it, saying the American flag is too big. And I'm just like, actually, no, it's perfect size. When you put the polo on, you want to have it big and proud. I think, was it Jimmy Joe Patty who he was wearing his polo in public, and the flag was so big and beautiful that it caught the attention of reporters, and some reporter came up and interviewed him for a documentary about the 250th anniversary because they saw his big, beautiful American flag. So bigger and better. Head to forlibertyshop.com. This is patriotic gear with some bite to it. This isn't just gift shop slop from a museum run by some guy named Bradley who thinks that the Declaration of Independence was complicated or that the American flag needs to be put away because it might be offensive. Those who know. So guys, head on over to forlibertyshop.com. I think my 1776 wallet is coming in today. I'm super excited about that one. We've also got the 250th anniversary double-sided American flag, as well as this new shirt that people really enjoy, the America 76 250 years t-shirt, which I'm ordering today. Drew Van Runkle did a review, I think, for us yesterday. I'm not sure if has it popped up there on the front page yet? We got to see, because normally whenever we get new reviews, they pop up. Man, Byron Norris is all over this. Thank you, Byron. Hey, man, we appreciate you, dude. All those 5-star reviews really help us out. So check out all of our amazing reviews of our incredible products, guys. Remember, we do have a satisfaction guarantee. So if whatever you order from the shop you don't like, we'll return it after 30 days. So we've got a nice little good return policy for you guys as well. So head to forlibertyshop.com. We're going to take a little break. When we get back, Spencer Pratt, Los Angeles votes today. The people in the city have a real choice finally in front of them. But will they make the right choice? We'll see if Los Angeles is ready to clean up that city. We'll talk about that when we get back. Don't forget, too, we got Camellia Peterson coming up at 8 a.m. Central. Talk about Not So Pride Month. And then 8:30 a.m., Devon Eriksen, science fiction author on media literacy and Starship Troopers. It's the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. "'Tis the year of our Lord, 1801. President Trump Jefferson casts his gaze o'er the sovereign Potomac and beholds a most wretched spectacle upon the waters. From the cursed shores of Tripoli and the welfare coffers of distant Minnesota comes the brazen Captain Ilhan Omar, commanding her fleet of Barbary pirates. She demands her ransom, billions in reparations. Yet one instrument of fortitude suffices, a steaming chalice of Jeffersonian Java, bold and unapologetic from 4 Liberty Shop. No more tribute to rogues, he thunders, and dispatches the Navy and Marines to smash Omar's fleet asunder. Trump Jefferson stands triumphant as Omar's plunder meets the end it deserved back in Minnesota. Jeffersonian Java, the coffee that gives true Americans the courage to refuse tribute and rebuke fraud. Procure yours at forlibertyshop.com and make America caffeinated again.
In a city where businesses never sleep, the technology still crashes. When technology turns criminal, they send up the signal. He's not a myth, and he's definitely not your nephew who knows computers. He installs, he protects, he backs it up, he keeps your business online and out of trouble. Managed IT, security, cloud, support that actually answers the phone. Layer 8 tech. When your network breaks, he wakes. Call Drew before your tech needs a rescue signal.
George Washington spent 8 years making sure nobody knew where he was. Troop movements, secret dispatches. The man was a ghost. So when a barista leaned out a window and asked for his exact location in exchange for points they called stars, he looked at his flag and said, "I've already got my stars. 13 of them. Keep your dignity and your location intact. Grab a box of Washington's Revolutionary Roast at forlibertyshop.com.
the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
The left in America tells us not to have kids to save the planet, but in Cuba, they stopped having kids because the state destroyed the earth.
Collectivism doesn't create justice. It creates shortages, corruption, and power for the few. I've not just seen it, I've lived it. My family escaped it. Now, the same failed ideas are being sold to a new generation. I'm here to expose the lie and defend liberty. From Cuba to Argentina to the United States, the freedom movement is rising. Cafecito Libre is the exile voice of economic truth. Cafecito Libre, premiering March 3rd as part of the For Liberty Network, only on Rumble.
Honey, we need to talk. We saw the things you've been searching online. Spencer Pratt? Really?
In this house, we don't believe in Spencer Pratt. He's MAGA.
What about Spencer Pratt is MAGA?
You know those streets downtown? The ones that are full of piss and shit and homeless people? He wants to clean them up.
And those neighborhoods that burned down? The Palisades? Malibu? He wants to rebuild them.
You know how people inject heroin in front of children at the park? He wants to stop that.
And that's MAGA?
Yes. It's a very dangerous ideology.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Good morning to Rare Camellia, Red Pill Prof, T-Mill 22, Byron Norris, and more over there in the chat. It's nice to see you guys. Welcome to the show. Guys, if you haven't clicked the like button, make sure that you do. Don't forget, tres importante. Well, Los Angeles is voting today, and for the first time in a very long time, the people of that city actually have a real choice in front of them. The primary in that city is nonpartisan. The top 2 finishers will advance to the November runoff. And heading into today, the UC Berkeley Los Angeles Times poll has the incumbent Karen Bass at 26%, council member Nithya Raman at 25%, and Spencer Pratt at 22%. Now, that's all inside the margin of error. But an independent voter project poll using a 2022 turnout model has Pratt leading the field at 27%. The prediction markets, which have been shown to be pretty accurate, they are showing him at 79% odds to advance. The political establishment in LA was laughing at him back in January when he announced. Well, they're not laughing today. Now, Spencer Pratt, he's not your typical politician, okay? He's a guy who lived in the Pacific Palisades. He raised his kids there. He built his life there. And then he watched Karen Bass's city government let it burn to the ground. Now, the Palisades fire, if you'll remember, started January 7th of last year. And Karen Bass was in Ghana at the time. So she was out of the country while 16,000 structures in her city were being destroyed and 12 people burned alive. Pratt, of course, lost his home, and Heidi Montag, his wife, they lost their home. Thousands of families lost everything. And when Karen Bass came back, at least according to Pratt, she hired a celebrity crisis PR firm, which is a company called The Lead Company, to alter the after-action report and scrub the city's fingerprints off the disaster before anybody could even read it. Spencer Pratt announced his campaign on January 7th of this year, which is the 1-year anniversary of the fire, at a rally called They Let Us Burn. This is a man who lost his house, watched the cover-up of it, and decided to run for the job of the woman who was responsible for both. That's what his campaign's been about, and I think that is why nobody in the establishment has been able to slow it down. But it's also been in part because of the incredible message discipline that the Pratt campaign has displayed. Watch this exchange between Spencer Pratt and Bill Maher, where Maher tries to get him off track talking about solar panels. Listen to this.
To get the solar turned on. Solar, something they want you to have.
But now they're taxing you, I think, for having it.
They are?
I think so.
What do you mean you think so? You have
I think,
to know,
I don't need to know about solar,
Okay,
I need to focus on making sure the moms are safe and the animals are not being abused. That's my party.
I know, but if you're the mayor...
the solar panels, that's going to be somebody I'm hiring. That's my deputy mayor is going to worry about the solar panels.
No, Spencer, I got bad news. If you're the mayor, you are going to have to learn some of these issues more.
Solar panels. We're about 3 years from worrying about solar panels. We need to get all the naked drug addicts off of the sidewalks, and then I can worry about solar panels.
But we can't walk and chew gum at the same time.
With the state of LA right now, the solar panels, you can spit that gum out. I love the idea of getting the drug addicts treatment and giving them job opportunities. And if we need more solar panels. Personally,
that is discipline.
I think we got to investigate the LADWP, why you even need a solar panel. You pay so much money for regular electricity that we got to check why our rates are going up 10% plus every month, and we're not getting better electricity. Alkaline water is not coming out of our tap. So I'll get back to you on the solar panels.
Get back to you on the solar panels. See that, if you are ever considering running for office or mounting any campaign whatsoever, then I'm telling you right now, you have got to study the Spencer Pratt campaign. Now, he may not end up winning in the end, but this should be a model for anyone. Let's say you're not a crazy right-winger like myself. You're not a right-wing Republican. You're not, I don't know, an anarchist or whatever you call yourself, some form of some extreme right-winger. Let's just say you're just moderately right-wing or something. Spencer Pratt is your model, because Spencer Pratt understands that if he sticks to the issues that actually matter to the voters and doesn't go off on some esoteric rant about, I don't know, the Federal Reserve or the gold standard or something like that, that you can actually rally more people that are outside of your base. You can actually get people who would never consider voting for a Republican in the first place to do things like this.
The LA Times gaslighters. It's weird. One of 15 cameras that I now have at this house. 2 German Shepherds, 3 legal guns. 5 years ago, didn't lock a door here, but you know what happened? 2 animals invaded my house. And no, I'm not racist because they were wearing masks. I don't know if they were white. I don't know if they were Jewish. I don't know if they were fucking rabbis. I know they were animals because they invaded my house. I know I don't care what their excuses are like a lot of you fucking care. I know invaders of homes should get 20 years. But I'm not paranoid, so I don't believe your bullshit about the stats and the crime, because everyone in my neighborhood has got the same problem. They're fucking all putting cameras and hiring security guards because we're all getting broken into. It's not made up, it's not false, and this city has collapsed in the last 5 years. There is no fucking denying it unless you have an agenda, and I don't know what that is. But you say, oh, Spencer Pratt has no experience, so how can we possibly think about this? What experience did Karen Bass have, or Rick Caruso, who we know can build things, who we know can fix problems, when you made sure he couldn't win? So right now, you're putting people in the same position that you did with Trump, who I did not vote for, by the way. You put him in by making sure we had no fucking options, okay? And that's where we are in LA, and we want to fix this place, because we don't want to be forced out. I'm one of the people who made this city look great. I did it for years. I glorified it. I meet people all the time that moved here because the show that I fucking created, and they hate it here now. Hate.
That's Doug Ellin. He was the creator of the show Entourage, who endorsing Spencer Pratt for mayor of Los Angeles. That was a show that ran for 8 seasons on HBO that was selling the dream of what life in Los Angeles could look like, in his very expletive-laden rant there. The glamour, money, the parties. The man who built that show for a living looked at the city and said, what experience did Karen Bass have? Well, we want to fix this place because we don't want to be forced out to live and die in LA. Now, Ellen knows what he's talking about because that guy lived it, right? His home was broken into. He says, we were robbed. Thankfully, we weren't home. In the city that this guy spent his career making look like the greatest place on earth. And what happened to Doug Ellin is happening across the entire city right now. The LAPD recently busted a crew called the Rich Rollin Burglary Ring, an organized crime. 10 members tied to at least 92 residential burglaries. The majority of those burglaries happened in 2024 and 2025. Law enforcement has documented what they're calling crime tourism. This is organized South American burglary rings. They fly into the country, they target high-value neighborhoods, and they leave before anybody can catch them. One Chilean national named Kevin Diaz was charged with 18 felonies after smashing through the back door of a Rexford Drive home while a family of 4 was inside. The homeowner had to barricade himself in a bathroom while Diaz ransacked his house. Investigators linked him to 17 other burglaries going back to January of 2025. A woman who was home alone with her children during one of these break-ins told reporters, when someone breaks into your house and you don't know what they want, it's terrifying. You're afraid for your life. And she said it changed how she plans to vote. Brad Pitt's home, hit. Tracy Ellis Ross, over $100,000 in jewelry gone. Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's place got ransacked on Valentine's Day. One resident who's been hit 3 times at 2 different addresses lost more than $1 million in jewelry and family heirlooms, and he's moving again. So these crews are operating with confidence because sanctuary policies, gutted prosecution, and a city government that's more focused on its own approval rating than its crime rate has made Los Angeles a big, fat, soft target. And the people who voted for every policy that produced that environment, by the way, are now boarding up their windows.
God, hearing Spencer Pratt being so passionate about being mayor. Listen, anything's better than Karen Bass. You know what I can tell you what I saw? I live in like a nicer side of town. I drove early morning after driving someone to the airport, came back home. 3 homeless people I saw defecating. Like, not even like privately defecating, pulling down their pants, butthole out to the street, defecating. So you know what? That's a real problem. I feel bad for them. You know, it's like, oh, where do they go? Well, they don't just pull your pants with your butthole to the street. So I'm voting for Spencer Pratt now.
Some people pay a lot of money to watch that. Spencer Pratt has coined a new term for this. He calls it the homeless industrial complex, and the numbers prove him out. Los Angeles has spent billions in homelessness over the last decade, and the homelessness only got worse. Bass wants credit for a 17.5% reduction in street homelessness since she took office, but Pratt says those numbers are totally fabricated, and an independent report from the Rand Corporation backs up Pratt's side of the story, noting that the city could be severely undercounting their homeless population. The Los Angeles Housing Authority, that's the agency that runs the official account, and they manage the money for this. They recently failed 6 out of 8 planned audits in a single fiscal year. The audit found hundreds of millions of dollars were being mismanaged. And in April of 2025, the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors voted to strip $300 million from the Housing Authority and then redirect it to a new department because the agency could not account for where the money went. This is the homeless industrial complex. The CEO of the Housing Authority warned publicly that the 2026 homeless count could show an increase, meaning that the numbers that Karen Bass is running on right now may not even survive the next audit cycle. Bass's office received over $400 million from the feds for homelessness. When I say the feds, that really just means you and me. And they got $350 million from the state as well. So they've got $750 million. 43,000 people still living on the streets of Los Angeles. 43,000. They've got $750 million. Pratt's argument is that this isn't a housing problem. It's a drug addiction problem. That the people who are living under the freeways and in the parks are not there because they need an apartment or a place to live. They're doing that because they're addicted to fentanyl, and the city has spent a decade handing them services instead of sobriety. Now, Spencer Pratt's plan was for people with severe addiction or mental illness. Those people will have 0 encampments, 0 fentanyl on the street. And honestly, it's the best damn thing I've heard in years. Keep in mind, this is the guy. This is one of the women that he's running against right now. Take a listen to this.
I mean, it's like, I don't think a kid's going to be safer because a tent is 500 feet away from a school. You know, it's like whatever.
Look at her rolling her eyes at that. I don't think a kid's going to be safer because a tent is 500 feet away from a school. So there you go. Right. So week 1 as mayor, Spencer Pratt is promising criminal investigators in City Hall opening cases on every homeless NGO in Los Angeles. That right there is a platform, baby. Now, people like Nithya Rahman that you just heard from, they say that he's far too extreme. Spencer Pratt is the problem, that he is the one that is the problem. His proposals, his MAGA proposals, those are the problem. Not the kids doing fentanyl on the streets, not the homeless people doing fentanyl on the streets in front of kids. It's the MAGA people that are the cause of the problem. The people stepping over naked drug addicts on their way to work this morning are probably going to call Spencer Pratt a good start. And I hope they vote for him. I hope they do, right? Now, the celebrities whose homes are being ransacked and crying, the entourage guy, right? They're now back in this outsider candidate. The A-listers that are quietly telling Spencer Pratt they support him in like private restaurants, going up to him before going home. But then they say some of these people are saying nothing publicly. Give credit at least to the founder of Entourage for saying something publicly. But these are all the same people who voted for every policy that produced this. They voted for the district attorneys who stopped prosecuting property crimes. They funded the campaigns of the activists who defunded the police. They turned LA into a sanctuary city and celebrated it. They donated to these nonprofits that Pratt is now promising to send the government after. They put Karen Bass in office. Now, when Tracy Ellis Ross's glass door got smashed in and $100,000 of her jewelry disappears, that's the policy environment that people like Tracy Ellis Ross spent years building, working as designed. Now, we're not supposed to say that, right? We're supposed to express sympathy for these people, for the crimes that they're victims of, and then just move on. But we're not doing that today because these are adults who made their choices with consequences that were entirely predictable. And when the predictable consequences arrived and it finally affected them, then all of a sudden, then they've got a problem with it. Because the most clarifying detail in all of this is Karen Bass herself. Her personal home in Baldwin Vista was actually burglarized in September of 2022, and I didn't even know this until yesterday, before she even took office. 2 of her guns were stolen. Then in April of 2024, the Getty House, which is the official residence of the mayor of LA, was broken into while Bass and her family were inside. So the mayor's house, while she was home. The woman who spent her entire campaign telling Los Angeles that crime is down and the city is safer than it's been in decades, could not keep her own front door secure. Now, Doug Ellen, the guy from Entourage, he looked at all of it, the burned neighborhoods, busted windows, fentanyl camps, cooked numbers, and he said enough, and give him credit for speaking out, okay? But then Pratt says, he's got all these A-listers who are in restaurants. They'll pull him aside and they sit with him. They'll quiz him on everything, thank him, and then they'll say nothing publicly. You know why? Because those people are afraid of losing the careers that they've spent 30 years building, right? And that fear that they fear is real because that's the proof that the culture that's running Los Angeles is still enforcing silence on anybody who notices what the culture has done to the place. Doug Ellen, the Entourage guy, decided that the city was worth more than the silence, to live and die in LA. Give him credit. If you got at least the balls to come out. So 22% of likely voters in the most progressive big city in America walking into a polling place today. If you're a praying person, pray for them. Spencer Pratt is campaigning clear out every encampment, zero out fentanyl in the streets, hold Karen Bass personally accountable for the 12 people who burned alive while she was in Ghana. Pratt's plan for the first 3 weeks in office is worth reading in his own words, so here they are. The first 3 week, signs up across the city. No more nakedness. No more drug use. No more robbing. No more burning dogs in the street. Yes, they've been burning dogs on the street. So we're going to go around and warn everybody. 3 more weeks of this. Clock's ticking. He said maybe 2 weeks because people might want it faster. And guys, that is the kind of leadership that this country needs. You love to see it. I fully endorse Spencer Pratt for mayor of Los Angeles. If you love this country and you believe that decline is a choice and that we're not forced to live in a country that is in decline, then you should vote for Spencer Pratt. If Spencer Pratt makes the runoff, then he faces a head-to-head with Karen Bass in November. And guys, this is a city where registered Democrats outnumbered registered Republicans 4-1. And Pratt is a registered Republican. So he registered in 2020, and he says he won't change it. So he's admirable for doing that. But the political reality just can't be wished away, guys. In 2022, Rick Caruso, he was a billionaire real estate developer. He switched his registration to Democrat. He spent $100 million of his own money. He lost to Karen Bass by 10 points. Pratt has raised $3.2 million. He's not spending $100 million. So the math in a one-on-one November race, guys, in a midterm environment where Democrats are motivated to vote against everything Trump adjacent in the most Democratic big city in the country is not favorable to Pratt, guys. I'm going to be straight with you because I respect you. All right, Bass's own campaign reportedly wants Pratt in the runoff, not Ramon, because her team believes that she can beat him in November more cleanly than she can beat a progressive challenger from her left. So the Bass campaign's preferred opponent is Spencer, right? So it doesn't mean that Pratt can't win because the IVP poll that uses a turnout model from 2022 actually has him leading in a general election. The question is whether anger in Los Angeles, like the fire victims have and the robbery victims, the business owners stepping over encampments, is enough to override the 4-1 partisan registration, guys. That's the real stakes. And because I love you and I wouldn't lie to you, I'll tell you the truth, guys. So today determines whether he's going to get to run this experiment. And I mean, God bless you all. Good luck. We're all counting on you, LA. Guys, this episode is brought to you by Expat Money. Look, guys, nobody wants to sound like the guy at Thanksgiving who's got the bunker, the ham radio, and 3 years of canned chili. But it turns out that the people who benefited the most, or the ones who were proven right the most from the COVID-19 pandemic, turns out were the preppers. So maybe they had a point. But sometimes, guys, the world does get weird. If Spencer Pratt loses, you might want to have an escape plan. Well, Expat Money put together a free report called 8 Countries to Escape World War III, and it walks you through real options for a sovereign plan B before things get ugly. It's a great read, and it's interesting, too. And it's not about panic, guys, because I don't want to sell you fear just to make my sponsor happy, but I do think that it is wise to learn about other options. This is about being the guy who's got the exit door mapped out while everybody else is still yelling about the fire alarm. So go to expatmoney.com/World War III and get the free report. Support the Wake Up America show. Download our sponsors report. Go to expatmoney.com/World War III. And when we get back, Camellia Peterson talk about Not So Pride Month. This is the Wake Up America show, and you're on the 4 Liberty Network. Guys, head on over to 4libertyshop.com during the break, and we'll see you on the other jump. Tis the year of our Lord, 1801. President Trump Jefferson casts his gaze o'er the sovereign Potomac and beholds a most wretched spectacle upon the waters. From the cursed shores of Tripoli and the welfare coffers of distant Minnesota comes the brazen Captain Ilhan Omar, commanding her fleet of Barbary pirates. She demands her ransom, billions in reparations. Yet one instrument of fortitude suffices, a steaming chalice of Jeffersonian Java, bold and unapologetic from 4 Liberty Shop. No more tribute to rogues, he thunders, and dispatches the Navy and Marines to smash Omar's fleet asunder. Trump Jefferson stands triumphant as Omar's plunder meets the end it deserved back in Minnesota. Jeffersonian Java, the coffee that gives true Americans the courage to refuse tribute and rebuke fraud. Procure yours at 4libertyshop.com and make America caffeinated again. George Washington spent 8 years making sure nobody knew where he was. Troop movements, secret dispatches. The man was a ghost. So when a barista leaned out a window and asked for his exact location in exchange for points they called stars, he looked at his flag and said, "I've already got my stars. 13 of them. Keep your dignity and your location intact. Grab a box of Washington's Revolutionary Roast at 4libertyshop.com.
In a city where businesses never sleep, the technology still crashes. When technology turns criminal, they send up the signal. He's not a myth, and he's definitely not your nephew who knows computers. He installs, he protects, he backs it up, he keeps your business online and out of trouble. Managed IT, security, cloud, support that actually answers the phone. Layer 8 tech. When your network breaks, he wakes. Call Drew before your tech needs a rescue signal.
Pride is a celebration of community, of love, and of authenticity.
It's also the product of decades and decades of resistance, of people standing in defiance of hatred and in defiance of bigotry.
Again and again, we've seen people stand up when they're told to sit down, taking on systems that seemed impossible to change and demanding better.
There has been so much progress made. It's another point of pride for this community, but the fight is still alive today. And know this, the state of California stands with you.
This community has never shied away from a challenge. So this month is a chance to recharge, to come together in unity and celebration of all of the joy this community brings.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Joining me now is someone I'm very proud to have on the Wake Up America show. She's not a prideful person, though. She's Camellia. Camellia, how are you doing?
California, I'm good. Like, it just cracks me up, like the clip, because California always trying to stand athwart history, and everybody else is going, nope.
Camellia, what are you proud of this month on Pride Month?
Well, I tell you what I am proud of. I am proud that the country seems to be trending back towards individual liberty, in that we are, the country has acknowledged our mistakes in the past, but it's time to stop doing the apology tour and time to start respecting the individual. And I think we've seen that in the cases that come out of the Supreme Court, whether it's about redistricting or whether it's about affirmative action. So I think that's great. That goes back to founding principles for us.
Now, Camellia, we're having a conversation in this country about Pride Month and corporate sponsorship and the relationship of corporations to the LGBT movement. So they're having this, the first day of Pride Month, and the organizers are they're scrambling for money because a lot of corporate sponsors are pulling out. Last year, a lot of the companies removed their rainbow logos from the corporation. This year, they're actually pulling their funding entirely. What do you think that tells you about the genuine commitment that these companies had to the cause?
I think that it is a resounding endorsement of capitalism and public pressure. We absolutely saw this because the public, the corporations, the companies, they tried to get political because they were responding to pressure, right? That's why they did that in the first place, is they were responding to this pressure from these groups that were really smaller in terms of the population of the country, but they, were very loud, had an outsized influence. And so, but they found out, eventually that the majority of the country did not appreciate that. And so they responded with walking with their feet in their wallets.
The DEI rollback on this one was interesting because the Trump administration actually banned Pride Month observances at the Defense Department. So the official government institutions will no longer celebrate it. In March,
they banned all identity days, which that's good, right?
Yeah, the government shouldn't be celebrating people's sexuality with our tax dollars. What do you think, Camellia? Duh.
Yeah, right.
Does that make us bigoted?
No, it doesn't matter if it's it doesn't matter what identity day it is. We just should not be doing that. Especially if you're talking about government agencies, there should not be, it's discrimination in and of itself. We've had this, conversation a lot over the last several years when you talk about racism versus, anti-racism versus, reverse racism. Racism is racism, discrimination is discrimination, and we just shouldn't do it.
Camellia, one of the things that I'm really proud of in Missouri is you and how well you've done on helping us to abolish the income tax. And you sent me a picture yesterday of the Missouri Libertarian Party, which, to be fair, barely exists in this state. Yeah, so when we're picking on them, I wanted people to understand that we're talking about maybe 10 people in this state, and that might be being generous. But the Missouri Libertarian Party put out a statement yesterday allegedly opposing the abolishing of the income tax in the state of Missouri. What gives?
I don't even understand why. And honestly, the opposition to phasing out the income tax, there's been this horseshoe theory movement of people on the far right, they're really just endorsing leftist policies is what they're doing, and they're working with the left to do it. And that's, I think that the LP comes out and does this for a couple of different reasons. I think one, because this is a Republican-led, movement. And so one part of it is just being contrarian, right? And I think the other part is that they're literally much more left aligned than they have been in many, many years.
Yeah, the people need to understand that if you are anything right of center, then you should you stay far away from the Libertarian Party because they have been fully consumed and taken over by left-leaning people.
Truly unfortunate.
Yeah.
Because I do think that there is value in having third parties because it just kind of keeps the pot stirred up, and it, and if the two main parties never have any kind of threat at all, and not that it's like a really viable threat, but it at least keeps the conversation going so that you're not taking those independents in the middle and, the people who are, have different viewpoints, you're not taking them for granted, right? I think we saw that during Trump's campaign, very much acknowledged that he needed to reach out to liberty-leaning people, right? People who embrace liberty and are hesitant about taking on, a Democrat or Republican Party label. So I think that there is value in that, but not when you're just going to go full left. I mean, you might as well just join the Democrat Party if you're going to do that.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I'm speaking to Camellia Peterson this morning. We're trying to campaign to abolish the income tax here in the state of Missouri. And we're facing opposition, not just from the libertarians who lean left these days, but we're actually facing a lot of opposition from within our own party, Camellia. So walk us through some of the arguments that people in our own Republican Party have been making against abolishing the income tax.
Sure. So the first thing I will say is that I think a lot of those arguments are based on fear. And I think that, we saw this during COVID when, bad policies, not so much in Missouri, were enacted out of fear, right? But there were plenty of people on the right who respond in that same way, fear is powerful. So I think that, a big change like there's fear. And then you hear all of the propaganda coming out of the left saying they're going to triple your sales tax and we're going to give the legislature a blank check to raise your taxes. And I think that, people, especially people who are on lower and fixed incomes, that's a scary thought, right? And I don't blame them at all for being concerned about that. So our task right now is to get to all of those people and say, here's what it really is, right? This is a really well thought out plan. This is great for the future of Missouri. There are guardrails in place. We're not going to Kansas, Missouri. Kansas tried to pass eliminating their income tax and then had no good plan, promptly turned around and increased their spending and had no guardrails in place to prevent that. So we have watched and learned the lessons, and this has really been has a lot of guardrails, and they cannot raise your sales tax without lowering your income tax. And it is we have so many loopholes in our sales tax code, and the people that are exempt in the sales tax code are the wealthy, because we don't tax luxury services, we don't tax all the out-of-state money coming in with the pro-abortion ads that's going to be on the ballot in November. There's all kinds of that stuff that we don't, they're not contributing. And so working Americans should not have to pay income tax. And the people who are consuming things in the state, let's spread the burden out. But yeah, I think that there are a lot of unfounded concerns. We need to educate.
One of the biggest concerns that I have heard from people is that the wealthiest people in the state of Missouri are deeply concerned that they will have to pay more in sales taxes because they don't pay income taxes because they're not working. They're the non-working rich, AKA boomers. And they want us to lower their taxes and to get rid of property taxes for boomers here in the state of Missouri. So there's a war on two fronts. The boomers don't want us to abolish the income tax because they might have to pay more in sales taxes. And the boomers want us to get rid of property taxes for boomers because they want the young and the poor and the middle class to continue to subsidize their very wealthy lifestyles. Your thoughts?
I love the retired community, but here's many of whom are still having to work, right? Because of so many of the failed policies that have led to our current economic problems.
Yes, a lot of them do have to. I've seen a lot of them working on their third and fourth houses.
That can be true too. But one of the most frustrating things that I have seen comments that I see come out of the retired community is that I had to pay income tax all my life. Why shouldn't everybody else have to? And I'm like, that is like, to me, that's incredibly selfish because I want better for my kids. I want them to be like, have a better place to live and grow. Like,
That is
why do we not want better for our kids?
That is not what that generation wants, Camellia. They do. They want us to suffer. They want us to suffer. I've always been shocked by this, but I mean, they literally do not want us to live easier lives.
There is hashtag not all boomers, right? But there is a significant number of them that do take that stance. But let me tell you what we've done for the retirement community in Missouri in the last few years. We stopped taxing Social Security income, which thank goodness, I was shocked that we ever did. Like, right, so we should not do that. So we stopped doing that. We got rid of capital gains tax. We also instituted a senior property tax freeze to address so they don't have to keep, getting taxed out of their homes. So like we've been doing a ton of things with the retirement demographic in mind, and rightly so. And now it's time to like spread the love to everybody else too, right? We're not out to cost the retired and the poor more, and we won't. Like, it won't. Like, the reality is this is not going to affect them in the way that it's being sold as.
If you're just tuning in to the Wake Up America show, that's Camellia Peterson over there. We're not related, as you can see from the spelling of our last names. We're just friends.
That's right. When you were announcing Hazel Rose's pending birth a couple of years or so ago, somebody congratulated me on becoming an aunt. I was like, wow.
Aunt. No, okay, so they thought we were brother and sister.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah, we made the announcement the other day about the second child, and now we're looking at all of the challenges that come. Camellia, you've got two kids. What I was actually going to post this the other day on Twitter, but I forgot. What is something that you learn when you have two kids instead of just one?
Oh, how different they are. I mean, the things that work with one will not work with the other. And it's so important to be flexible, right? I mean, I think that there's this idea that fairness, right, in parenting, and it's not that you should treat kids differently, but the methods that you use in parenting for each of them may vary slightly because we are individual people, right? I mean, individual differences, and that certainly applies to kids as well. We can talk about blank slate, but there is definitely not entirely blank slate, right? I mean, so there are certain characteristics I think that kids are just this come by naturally from the womb. And so yes. And my number one advice, as always, is ignore most, if not all, of the advice.
All right. That's what, we do. We definitely do. Camellia, back to politics. I made a post yesterday that I thought would get a little bit of attention, and certainly it did. I saw that you had liked it. But this was my libertarian nationalist short-term plan for victory in the United States. And the first part of it is probably the most controversial part, which is that if we want to ensure that Senator Rand Paul gets reelected in the next campaign cycle, then he should disassociate from the Lulberts who tanked Massey and try and rebuild his support with the MAGA coalition, right? Try and rebuild his relationship with Donald Trump. And I also said that we should brutally bully and demoralize anyone who uses the term Epstein class unironically if they try and glom onto Paul's campaign, that we should destroy them utterly and completely until they quit politics entirely and join the Democrats along with the Groypers and the neocons. Quite controversial, but am I wrong, Camellia?
No, and I think that we've seen Rand Paul doing what he needs to do. He has been highlighting the positives in the areas of common ground. And I think that accentuate the positive, right? And like that way you get to at least have a seat at the table to work on the negative. And I know that feels so many times, I think, not saying something about everything feels to especially the purists like it's a betrayal of your principles or something. And you don't have to attend every fight you're invited to, right? I think that's a really good principle, a really good thing that I've had to learn, right? You don't have to engage everywhere. So it's strategic. Choose the things that you engage on carefully, how you engage, and make the difference where you can, because you can't do it all. Like, we can try, but we can't do it all, and we're not going to get it all either. But we can get a little bit, and every little bit helps.
The second thing on my bullet point list here was that we should coalesce around Vivek Ramaswamy's gubernatorial campaign. We should support the Ohio Republican Party's efforts, ensure Vivek wins. And that got everybody angry. The Lawbirds are mad because they don't like Vivek because I guess he's a Republican and a Trump supporter. And then a lot of MAGA people don't like Vivek Ramaswamy because, as they said underneath that post, he's not a Christian. But your take on the Vivek Ramaswamy campaign in Ohio?
I just don't understand the hate that comes on the right, and I guess even among the Groypers too. I mean, I guess I know why the Groypers are there, because he's not white.
He's not white. Yeah.
I mean, it's like,
well, neither. But which is funny. Which is funny because neither are they.
So maybe that helps.
Well,
right? Exactly.
Well, yeah, but neither are they. They're led by a Mexican kid.
Yeah, it's so wild. Like, yes, I mean, probably for them, the most important thing is that he's not Jewish, so they should like him, right? I mean, we can get around to this. Oh my gosh, no, I
like Vivek. I like Vivek.
Too.
Yeah.
And I think it's so rare, and I know people are like, oh, words, but being able to articulate the ideas of liberty in a very clear and relatable way is so hugely important. I mean, you can't there's, even for people who articulate these things and they don't always win, it's still important because you have to constantly remind people of the North Star and the things that can be done and that should be done and will be done, right? And I think Vivek does a really good job of that. And we absolutely should all rally behind them, because what's the alternative?
Well, he was the only guy when he was running for president in 2024 who showed up to the Libertarian Party's national convention, debated with libertarians on stage, did outreach, went to meet what he called one of his heroes, Senator Ron Paul, shook hands with, actually campaigned to us. And I just never understood why the guy never got the respect. But I think it's because I've started to narrow this down, and this is something of an oversimplification, but I do think it is, part of the many reasons why there's the dislike of him. But it's because I do think that the libertarian movement in the United States is largely Trump deranged, Camellia.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's true.
That they're unable to see any good. And the reason why I believe this is because I will post very controversial, very provocative, but very truthful things like Trump has done more libertarian shit than any libertarian who is alive in the United States. That includes Ron Paul, Rand Paul, Thomas Massey, all their heroes, right? I guess I'm denigrating at the expense of Trump. But Trump is willing to take messy wins for liberty where our people want to be pure losers. But here's the thing, here's what I've noticed, Camellia, is that sometimes people will be like, what has he done that is libertarian? And I will sometimes I will post the long list of things. And you know what happens, Camellia? They disappear. Like yesterday, I was getting into a tangle with Bob Murphy, the economist guy, about the whole Jew problem that the Liberty Movement has, and he's like, "Well, you weren't saying things like this back when you're." I was like, "What happened to Walter Block?" But Bob, what did Mises do to Walter Block, Bob? And then as soon as I provided details on what I was saying, because I'll make a hyperbolic statement and get everybody stirred up, and it's a true statement, right? Mostly true, 99.9% true. And then they ask me for details, and then as soon as I provide details, Camellia, my original hyperbolic post gets tons of attention. But then the post where I provide the facts and evidence that debunks their bullshit narrative, they disappear. Why, Camellia? Why are libertarians so afraid of the truth and facts? Is it because facts don't care about their feelings, or is it their feelings don't care about facts? But why don't they appreciate the truth when it's handed to them on a silver platter?
I think probably because, I mean, every party to a certain extent has their version of utopia, right? Mm-hmm. But probably libertarians have more of a version of utopia than everyone else, right? So I think that the idea for a lot of libertarians, particularly big L libertarians who, stay with the party, I think the idea that you would have to like accept any like muddied version of that, or that's not just nice and neat and pristine. I think that that's just really hard because like I think that they're very ideological, right? I mean, there are a lot of people who are Democrats and Republicans who are not ideological people, right? It is more of a tribal, like this is my team kind of thing, and they generally agree with the principles, but they're not necessarily purely ideological. And I think far more people, like people in the Libertarian Party, are pretty ideological, although I think that's probably changing to a certain extent. But so I think it's much harder for them to accept some of the realities of the world that we live in and the messiness of human nature.
Yeah, it's a shame. I hope we don't lose Senator Rand Paul over it. But people are like, if Trump goes after Rand Paul like he did Thomas Massie, are you going to support Trump or are you going to support Rand Paul? And I just said, I was just really clear with him and honest. And I just said, if Rand Paul goes all in on like the Jew-spiracy stuff, goes all Jew-tarded, spurgs out on Jews. If Rand Paul decides to do press conferences with Gavin Newsom just to try and stick it to Donald Trump, then yeah, he's going to lose my support.
And here's the thing. I don't think that we're ever going to see that with Rand Paul. And I think for a number of different reasons, but I will point out one might make some people upset. Is like, I think that Rand Paul has a good woman who's been at his side for many years and still is, that balances him.
Kelly Paul. You know what?
She's amazing.
You know how I know that she's smart? Because she frequently likes my posts on X.
Well, that is the metric.
That
right?
is the sign. That's like an IQ test right there. So Kelly, please save him. If anybody who's listening right now knows Rand Paul and loves Rand Paul, please help him. Don't let what happened to Thomas Massie happen to Rand Paul. Camellia, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our audience before we let you go?
Hey, for your local peoples, particularly in Jeff City, Columbia area, at the end of this week, we're doing income tax town halls for you to come ask your questions. Please come out, say hi. I'll be at both of those. We'll be in Columbia Friday night at Shakespeare's Pizza South, and then we'll be at the library in Jefferson City Saturday morning. Would love to see you there.
Hey, cool. If you have like a social media post about that, I do have several local people who are on my Facebook page and stuff. Send that over to me, Camellia, and I'll share it out on my personal page because I think we'll probably be able to help you boost some attendance. Okay.
Thank you. Okay,
you're
thanks.
welcome.
Have a great day, everyone.
I'm doing my part. I'm doing my part.
I'm helping.
I'm helping. Bye, Camellia. We appreciate you very much. That's Camellia Peterson, ladies and gentlemen, only on the Wake Up America show. The Wake Up America show is brought to you in part by viewers and listeners just like you. If you want to support the Wake Up America show, you could do so totally for free just by clicking the like button. If you're watching us maybe over on X, maybe click the like button and then a little repost button to help us out. We'd be super grateful. If you're watching us on Rumble, though, you click the follow button as well. Today is the very first time that you have ever watched the Wake Up America show, and you're having fun and you like the community, and you're like, hey, it's nice to see a bunch of people who have good heads on their shoulders. Well, then head on over, then click the follow button as well as the like button, guys. We'd love to have you be a regular guest. Come back and join us every Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. That's the Wake Up America show schedule, and we're sticking to it. Coming up. Service guarantees citizenship. Would you like to know more? When we come back, science fiction used to dream about the future. Somewhere along the way, it decided its only job was to tell you how doomed you are. My next guest is one of the writers trying to change that. We're going to talk about Starship Troopers. Are you ready, Marines? Media literacy and the debut novel that's taken the indie publishing world by storm. Don't go anywhere, citizens. President Trump Jefferson casts his gaze o'er the sovereign Potomac and beholds a most wretched spectacle upon the waters. From the cursed shores of Tripoli and the welfare coffers of distant Minnesota comes the brazen Captain Ilhan Omar, commanding her fleet of Barbary pirates. She demands her ransom, billions in reparations. Yet one instrument of fortitude suffices, a steaming chalice of Jeffersonian Java, bold and unapologetic from For Liberty Shop. No more tribute to rogues, he thunders, and dispatches the Navy and Marines to smash Omar's fleet asunder. Trump Jefferson stands triumphant as Omar's plunder meets the end it deserved back in Minnesota. Jeffersonian Java, the coffee that gives true Americans the courage to refuse tribute and rebuke fraud. Procure yours at forlibertyshop.com and make America caffeinated again. George Washington spent 8 years making sure nobody knew where he was. Troop movements, secret dispatches. The man was a ghost. So when a barista leaned out a window and asked for his exact location in exchange for points they called stars, he looked at his flag and said, "I've already got my stars. 13 of them. Keep your dignity and your location intact. Grab a box of Washington's Revolutionary Roast at forlibertyshop.com.
In a city where businesses never sleep, the technology still crashes. When technology turns criminal, they send up the signal. He's not a myth, and he's definitely not your nephew who knows computers. He installs, he protects, he backs it up, he keeps your business online and out of trouble. Managed IT, security, cloud, support that actually answers the phone. Layer 8 tech. When your network breaks, he wakes. Call Drew before your tech needs a rescue signal.
Young people from all over the globe are joining up to fight for the future.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part. I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part too.
They're doing their part. Are you? Join the mobile infantry and save the world. Service guarantees citizenship.
Would you like to know more? Good morning. Rise and freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show, and that's on the For Liberty Network. We're glad and thankful to have you here today. Don't forget to click the like button if you haven't already. We'd love to have you be a regular guest, so click the follow button as well. I was always a big science fiction fan as a kid. Science fiction was the genre that gave us Dune and Ringworld, big ideas you could tackle with, like how would humans survive if we had to go and colonize other planets? And these are real conversations that we're having right now that were being debated back in the 1950s. But science fiction has changed a lot. It's spent the last 30 years telling us we're probably going to destroy ourselves. And we probably deserve it if we do. Well, my next guest is a software engineer turned author who decided to write the kind of book that the genre stopped making. His debut novel, Theft of Fire, Orbital Space #1, is a Libertarian Futurist Society Prometheus Award finalist. And the most common comparison that readers make for this book is one of my personal heroes, Robert Heinlein. Joining us now live, Devon Eriksen. Welcome back to the Wake Up America show, Devon. It's good to see you again, sir. Probably your favorite subject to discuss.
It's good to be here again. Yes.
A science fiction author's favorite topic to discuss on a show, his own book, right? Glad and thankful to have you here, Devon. Let's talk about this post that you made the other day about Starship Troopers, because you essentially stated on X that it's really one of the most misunderstood science fiction novels in science fiction history. Can you sort of break that down for our audience?
Well, a lot of people watch the movie. And of course, the movie was intended to subvert Heinlein because is this made by some sort of Euro weenie who thought Heinlein was a fascist because he hadn't read Heinlein's other works. But it's this sort of satire of this war with an alien species where he's trying to make the humans look like fascists and the bugs look sympathetic, and he completely fails, and it's actually a good popcorn movie. But if you read the actual book, Starship Troopers, your first clue that it's not about a war should be on the first page where it says Starship Troopers. Doesn't say the big war with the bugs. It says Starship Troopers. And if you read into it, and he spends a good amount of the book on boot camp and training, and a good amount of the book on this young man's decision to sign up to serve in the armed forces, and a good amount of the book discussing the ramifications of that, and a good amount of the book discussing shipboard life, you start to realize that this book is not about war. It's not about a war. It's not about any war. It's about military life. And it's about the relationship of armed forces to the nations they serve. What is that relationship? What should that relationship be? How do you structure a society that has a military and needs to employ that without being a militarized society?
These are all really good questions, and they're questions that our society has yet to contend with, because in the United States, we have something of a two-tiered society when it comes to the responsibilities that people have towards the society itself. So, for example, and my wife and I were discussing this last weekend, if you're a woman in the United States, you're not required to register for selective service. So in essence, you won't be drafted if a draft is reinstated in the United States, and yet you still have the franchise. So in other words, women in the United States have the privileges of citizenship without an accordant responsibility. But men in American society, we have the privilege of voting, and we have that responsibility that is required. So Starship Trooper, deals with the question of earned citizenship, the relationship between rights and responsibilities. So I wonder what your thoughts are of how what are some of the lessons that Starship Troopers, or I guess Robert Heinlein, was trying to teach Americans about rights and responsibilities?
Well, one of the things that he has some of the characters discuss is this notion that what is the meaning of the power of the vote? And this is something where I think that Heinlein noticed a flaw in the philosophy of modern liberalism, which is sometimes called classical liberalism. By classical, we mean sort of the 1700s and so forth, where these modern democracies were established because you had common people wielding more power to do violence, and so they needed to be represented politically. But I think they were modeled off some of the ancient democracies, but a critical detail was missed. And this is one of the details that Heinlein points out in slightly different words. He says the power to vote is the power to commit violence. Voting is violence by proxy, because voting determines what the policies of the state will be, and the state enforces its edicts by violence. In fact, that's what the state is for. It's there to do the things that you need violence or the threat of it to do. So, in essence, you are wielding the power of the state when you vote. And so Heinlein takes a good deal of this book asking the question, who is qualified to wield the power of the state? And he's explicitly sort of pushing back against this idea that everyone is qualified to wield the power of the state. This sort of liberal idea of universal suffrage. He has, because the vote is the power of the state, it requires responsibility to wield it. And he's asking, who is responsible? How do we make that choice? And in the book, he has a very specific answer, military service, but that's not his canned answer that he's trying to push on people. He's giving an example of an answer and suggesting that there needs to be one.
Now, media literacy is a term that gets thrown around. Most often I see it being used by leftists in discussions of Starship Troopers and their misunderstanding of it, because you'll frequently see people who actually take what Paul Verhoeven was trying to communicate with this movie, that to sympathize with the bugs, that as if the lesson is that we're supposed to sympathize with the bugs. But Devon, there are ominous parallels of that mindset that the leftists have, because in our society, there is I would say, I guess this is rather dehumanizing for me to say, but there is a class of people in our society that you could very accurately compare to the bugs or the parasites, but they're not the good guys, Devon, in our society. Does that make me a fascist to admit that?
Well, the term fascist has become very flexible lately, and I would suggest that the optimum amount of fascism in a society is not 100%, and it's also not 0. Fascism is sort of the political manifestation of the disgust response, and some things actually are disgusting. One of the things that sticks out about these sort of leftist interpretations of this kind of morality and of the distinction between ourselves and the other is that there are certain groups, and only certain groups, such as humanity, white people, Western civilization, that leftists really expect to be too broad-minded to take their own side. And I think that's what manifests in Verhoeven's movie. You notice that he's not, that he's not berating the other for not identifying with humanity. Humanity is not supposed to take its own side. We are supposed to be the neutral arbiters of justice. And that's a pretty parochial sort of philosophy, if you really think about it, because it's declaring that some groups, such as Western civilization, or in a science fictional setting, humanity, are essentially gods. They're supposed to rule the universe and make it just. And that's not really the way it works. Humanity is just one more species on the planet. And if we discover other species within the galaxy, then we will be one other species in the galaxy. And, if we don't take our side, no one will.
Is this just another way of saying that the left has a suicidal empathy for beings that would destroy them?
It pretends to have a suicidal empathy. It pretends to, but if you talk to leftists, what you find very quickly is they have zero empathy at all, because they can't figure out how anyone else sees the world. Now, I think the core of this impulse is the desire to virtue signal empathy. So you don't get much credit. You can't virtue signal very effectively by saying, I love my family, I love my tribe, I love my country. That's just normal stuff. People who want to live and reinforce their ego through this signaled virtues of tolerance and acceptance and benevolence toward everyone, they need to perform astonishing signals of virtue, Well, you love your country. Well, that's nothing. I love other countries that want to kill me. Oh, you love your species. Well, I love spiders. It's sort of this bizarre one-upsmanship that results in suicide or results in the destruction of the tribe, but they don't care about that because they can personally signal that they are superior beings.
I love this conversation. I'm speaking to author Devon Eriksen this morning on the Wake Up America show. Devon, your book, Theft of Fire, I can see a copy of it sitting there behind you. It's got viewers, you've had readers who have accused you of being a socialist based on your character's views, but then a different set of people has accused you of the opposite. So at what point do you think that audiences lost the ability to tell the difference between what a character believes and what an author believes? And why is this a problem just beyond the literary annoyance?
Well, in the 1970s, Larry Niven sort of put his finger on this. He says there's a technical literary term for readers who mistake the opinions of characters for the opinions of authors. We call them idiots. And, Larry Niven was famous for this kind of witty comeback, but I don't think that is strictly true anymore, because we've had the main publishing houses of the United States sort of be infiltrated by this kind of Marxist long march through all our institutions. And so for the past 30, 40 years, the Manhattan-based publishing industry has been publishing these kinds of preachy stories where the opinions of the characters are the opinions of the authors. And sometimes even the people who very much hate that get used to it, and they come to expect it. And when they see something different, they tend not to give you the benefit of the doubt. So, when one of the characters, for example, happens to have personal beef with the future version of SpaceX, I get these notes like, "Why do you hate Elon Musk?" I'm like, what are you talking about? Oh, the character.
So tell us about the book. Marcus Warnock, broke asteroid miner. His ship gets hijacked by a corporate heiress with a plan that's about to go sideways. What were you trying to build in this book that you felt like the science fiction genre had stopped building?
Well, I wanted the same kind of sort of adventure that I had seen in the science fiction from the classical age of science fiction, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. And the only thing I wanted to update for modern audiences was the technology. So I'm like, okay, what's the seed of a good adventure story? What can I use, and what can I use to showcase some of the ways that I think a colonized solar system will actually be like? So I take the smallest microcosm of that, these three characters who kind of come from these backgrounds of the three different major technologies that I think will impact the future the most highly. And I just kind of stick them together in a small spacecraft. They've got something they have to do, but none of them really wants to be there with the others. And I just kind of let them go.
Devon, what do you make of the modern obsession, especially with science fiction movies, the modern obsession with dystopias in science fiction? Is it just because it gives you something more to do, or do you think that there's some kind of is the marketplace, telling us that people are always that are just more interested in dystopian futures?
This has nothing to do with the marketplace. This has nothing to do with the marketplace. Publishing houses don't know how to sell books anymore. That's, they say, oh, men don't read anymore. Men don't read anymore because you're publishing shit they don't want to read. This is entirely driven by the supply side. It's entirely driven by the fact that the people who are now running the major publishing houses are serving their own egos and not their customers. And their income and their budgets and their balance sheets reflect this. So I think that we're existing at the time of wonderful opportunity for independently published authors. I mean, yes, discovery is a bit of a problem. Finding that readership is a bit of a problem. But readers are thoroughly sick of dystopia. Readers are thoroughly sick of being told they're going to have to fight off the mutant zombies with sharpened pieces of rebar in 30 years from now. You know, people want excitement about how we're going to explore the galaxy and do cool stuff.
Yeah, I do too, man. I think about it all the time, probably in a very unhealthy way. But one of my favorite things.
I don't think that's unhealthy. I think that's one of the healthiest things you can do. I think we have reached the end of cynicism. Cynicism is no longer cool. Believe in something.
Okay, can I talk to you about something really effing nerdy that probably only you and I are going to be interested in?
Absolutely, I would love to hear it.
Okay, so in order for humans to colonize another planet, first you have to get there, and in order to get there, you have to create a space engine. And the best I've been able to determine is that the only form of an engine that actually can solve the sort of chicken and egg problem that occurs when you have fuel, when you have a fuel-based rocket ship, it is a spaceship that sets off nuclear weapons behind it and pushes a pressure plate that then accelerates it up to near light speed, right? And because
you're talking about Orion.
Okay, yeah. So the concept is all the concepts that I've seen for space travel involve like some kind of solar panel, but the problem is the farther you get away from the sun, then you lose your energy source. If you have fuel, then you need to bring a lot of fuel, and then a lot of fuel is very heavy. But the problem with this is what brings it back to Earth, Devon, is that in the 1960s, the United States signed all of these nuclear non-proliferation treaties. And in those treaties, we committed to not building nuclear weapons in space. But if we want to actually do space travel the way that it's like physically feasible, we have to set off nuclear weapons in space. So do you think it's time for us to revisit some of those START treaties that we signed with the Russians in the 1960s so that we can set off nuclear weapons in space so that we can actually do space travel appropriately? Or
well, there's two ways to answer this question.
Okay.
The first way is that all of these old treaties are going to be absolutely obsolete, null and void. No one's going to pay any attention to them because, you know, you're not. The assumption behind them was always this sort of 20th century assumption that space exploration and space travel and space colonization was going to be driven by governments. I don't see it that way. I don't see it that way. The future of space colonization and space exploration is, you know, there will always be some scientific stuff, but it's going to be driven by a profit motive, and it's going to be spearheaded by private enterprise. And SpaceX and Blue Origin did not sign any nuclear non-proliferation treaties. Now, they're gonna go out of their way to show that they're playing nice. Okay, these are power systems, these are not weapons, but as we encounter the practicalities of space travel, we're certainly going to start ignoring some of these obsolete documents that were signed under 20th century assumptions. But there's an entirely different answer to your question as well. And that's that you need to make a distinction between interplanetary travel, escape from Earth's gravity well, and interstellar travel, because these are three very different things. So most of the modern difficulty in what we think of as space is actually the difficulty of getting out of this very deep gravity well that we live at the bottom of. In fact, if our gravity were any stronger, we'd kind of be in trouble, because we're at the point where it's just kind of barely possible with really, really, really good technology to get stuff into orbit without fusion. We're just kind of at that threshold. So that's the really difficult problem. But see, it's a little bit like living at the bottom of a well that's in the middle of a giant skating rink. Because once you get out of that Earth's gravity well, all you need is a very gentle push and you can just coast along, because you're on a relatively gentle gravity gradient from that point on. And so, you know, yeah, you might want more fuel, you might want more delta V to get there faster, but the majority of the technical problem is getting out of Earth's gravity well. So if you are willing to wait, you can throw stuff all around the solar system pretty easily. And in fact, with most of your cargo, that's what you can do. You don't need to stick it in a ship and take it somewhere. You can just kind of give it a push and it'll keep going and somebody catches it on the other end. I talk about this a lot in the book. I call it throw and catch shipment, because space isn't an ocean and your stuff can't sink.
One more nerdy question. Any chance that you've seen that documentary, the National Geographic documentary that's called Escape Earth? It's about a situation where a neutron star is coming to destroy Earth, and like what the possible escape plans would be for humans. Have you seen that one?
I have not.
Okay, don't watch it. Don't watch it because it's well, unless you love government propaganda, because in this documentary, which I found it fascinating, it's just an hour-long documentary, you can find it on YouTube. But in this documentary, they show the two possible scenarios where you have like the Elon Musk style, like evil billionaire who's building his ship to escape. And then you have like the government eugenicist. They're going to get everybody's DNA on the planet. And they're going to have this system where they'll determine which will be the best genetics for us to send into space. And then they put them side by side. And then the evil billionaire is like, yeah, we're going out to space, baby. And all the like rich people are getting on the ship. And of course, in true government propagandist fashion, the Elon Musk character's ship explodes on the launch pad, killing all the billionaires. And the government spaceship, which of course the government is perfectly efficient, you know, they always do a great job. They have this like, you know, gay race communist approach to getting off the planet. But in that documentary, they do explore the different types of spaceships and things that we've discussed. So if you really hate liberty and freedom and individualism, then put that on your list. We've got to run, so I want to give you one more chance to plug your book, Devon, because I know listeners they're curious about the audio version, but I was told it wasn't on Amazon. So tell people where they can find it and what they're getting into.
Well, they can find it on Sound Booth Theater or on my website. And I know I'm not on Audible, because Audible has a business model where they believe that it's cheaper if you don't pay authors. But I actually had a lot of fun with the audiobook. I hired a full cast of voice actors and directed it all myself. So that's actually turned out very profitable for us, despite not being on Audible, or perhaps because of not being on Audible.
All right, what's the website? One more time, Devon, what's the website?
DevonEriksen.com.
And you can see the spelling of that directly under that handsome mug. Devon, thank you so much for being so generous with your time today and for indulging me in all this really nerdy conversation. Because
well, it's always a pleasure, Austin. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, we're very grateful. And please tell Christine we said hello and thank you for booking you. We appreciate you. Have a good one, Devon.
Thank you.
There we
You
go.
too.
Would you like to know more? Everyone's doing their part. Are you? The war effort needs your effort, at work, at home, in your community.
All right, guys. Well, I hope you appreciated that. Sorry, I got a little bit nerdy there at the end. I hope that you enjoyed the Wake Up America show today. If you guys haven't already, make sure you exit through the Grift Shop. at forlibertyshop.com this morning. No bonus content today. Hopefully we'll unlock it tomorrow. But of course, we're always grateful for people like Byron Norris and Quest Fanning and others who step up to help us a little bit here and there to support the Wake Up America show and our mission to take over the government and leave you alone. This is the Wake Up America show. I'm Austin Peterson, and this is the For Liberty Network. Bye, guys. "'Tis the year of our Lord, 1801. President Trump Jefferson casts his gaze o'er the sovereign Potomac and beholds a most wretched spectacle upon the waters. From the cursed shores of Tripoli and the welfare coffers of distant Minnesota comes the brazen Captain Ilhan Omar, commanding her fleet of Barbary pirates. She demands her ransom, billions in reparations. Yet one instrument of fortitude suffices, a steaming chalice of Jeffersonian Java, bold and unapologetic from For Liberty Shop. No more tribute to rogues, he thunders, and dispatches the Navy and Marines to smash Omar's fleet asunder. Trump Jefferson stands triumphant as Omar's plunder meets the end it deserved back in Minnesota. Jeffersonian Java, the coffee that gives true Americans the courage to refuse tribute and rebuke fraud. Procure yours at forlibertyshop.com and make America caffeinated again.